Surely, this commandment that I am commanding you today is not too hard for you, nor is it too far away. It is not in heaven that you should say, 'Who will go up to heaven for us and get it for us so that we may hear it and observe it?' Neither is it beyond the sea that you should say, 'Who will cross to the other side of the sea for us and get it for us that we may hear it and observe it?' No, the word is very near to you. It is in your mouth and in your heart for you to observe. See, I have set before you today life and prosperity, death and adversity. If you obey the commandments of the Lord your God that I am commanding you today, by loving the Lord your God, walking in his ways, and observing his commandments, decrees, and ordinances, then you shall live and become numerous, and the Lord your God will bless you in the land that you are entering to possess. But if your heart turns away, and you do not hear, but are led astray to bow down to other gods and serve them, I declare to you today that you shall perish. You shall not live long in the land that you are crossing the Jordan to enter and possess. I call heaven and earth to witness against you today that I have set before you life and death, blessings and curses. Choose life so that you and your descendants may live, loving the Lord your God, obeying him and holding fast to him. For that means life to you and length of days, so that you may live in the land that the Lord God swore to give to your ancestors, to Abraham, to Isaac, and to Jacob. This is the word of the Lord.
Thanks be to God. What if obituaries told the unfettered truth? I'm not saying that most obituaries are padded with malarkey. I'm just saying that most of them provide just a few sterile facts and don't really reveal the core of a person or his or her impact on others. Here's a typical obituary. John Smith Jr. was born in Wilmington, Delaware, the son of John and Clara Smith. He attended the University of Delaware. He worked for 35 years with Johnson & Johnson. He enjoyed reading and vacationing at the beach. Above all, he loved spending time with his family. Nothing wrong with it, but all we have is a faint pencil sketch, not a full portrait with the vivid colors of his life. What if obituaries disclosed more of a person's essence? What if they revealed the uncensored impressions of the people who knew the deceased? How about this? Bill Williams always thought of himself as the life of the party. Everyone else thought he had never grown up. Sam's primary focus in life was making money, and he never tired of reminding people how much he had. When Dorothy was a child, she believed the entire cosmos revolved around her. This continued into her 70s. Now, of course, not everybody's obituary would be so unflattering. Many of you would have obituaries that were very inspiring. Bob Johnson loved to serve food to the homeless and worked on habitat houses. He will be remembered for his generous spirit. Susan Brown did not have an easy life, but she never spoke an unkind word about anyone. Today's passage is part of a long sermon that Moses delivers just shortly before he dies. It's time to write his obituary. He has led the Hebrew people out of slavery, and through a terrible wilderness for 40 years. He has helped them escape harrowing situations, and he's delivered God's commandments to them. We find that Moses has brought them to the edge of what he believed they were destined to be, where they were to reside. And before crossing over the Jordan River, he delivers to all the people his parting words. Now, whether the Jordan River is understood literally or metaphorically, it serves as a threshold. They are about to leave their past and step into their future. They're about to put behind them their wandering nomadic life and settle in one place. Moses is saying, your future and your children's future is before you. What will you make of it? Although you're not pondering it at this moment, he's saying to them, in the days ahead, you will be writing your obituary. How will it read? In this farewell speech, Moses implores, surely this commandment that I am commanding you today is not too hard for you, nor is it too far away. It's not in heaven that you should say, who will go up to heaven and obtain it for us and bring it to us so that we can hear it and observe it. Neither is it beyond the sea. So you would say, who will cross over to the other side of the sea and grab it for us and bring it back so that we can read it and observe it? No, the word is very near you. It is in your mouth and it is in your heart. Moses has delivered God's commandments to them. There's no doubt that they are challenging. But Moses declares that the statutes are not so demanding that they are impossible to obey. He encourages them. He's saying, you have the rules to live by. You can do this. Then it's almost as if someone in the crowd says, yeah, but we can't remember all of the commandments. You remember that he not only delivered the 10 commandments, but many others. Moses says, the commandments are not beyond your reach. You don't have to go to the highest heaven to obtain them. You don't have to cross the sea to get them. That's because they are written in your soul. In other words, I have given you this long list of commandments, those things you should do and those things you should avoid. But you don't have to remember every detail of them because you know in your soul what is merciful and just. Then Moses drives home the gravity of what choice they face. I have set before you this day life and prosperity, death and adversity. What kind of choice is that? Everybody wants life and prosperity. No one would willingly choose death and adversity, would they? Well, what exactly does Moses mean by death? He's not speaking literally, our heart stopping, our brain registering no more activity. Death refers to those things that alienate us from God and that cause a distance between us, put us at odds with each other. Death is chasing after the things that glitter only to find that they turn out to be fool's gold. Death is a creeping emptiness in your soul. It's the question that keeps nagging at your conscience. What is the point of it all? Death is a callous heart where the pain of another doesn't make even a dent on us. Death is where we do not care if people are treated unfairly because of their race or sexual orientation. Death is where we turn a deaf ear to refugees who are fleeing for their lives. Ask someone who is admitted to an addiction, and he can tell you what death is. Death is living a lie. Death is living in fear. Death is losing all hope. Surely everyone here has had at least a brush with the death of which Moses speaks. And isn't it maddening when we fail to learn our lesson and choose the same poison we've ingested before? Moses lays out the stark choices before the people because he will no longer be with them. He has picked them up when they have fallen. He has shown them the right path when they have strayed. But they are not going to be able to rely on him in the days ahead. I suspect Moses is worried sick that he's devoted his entire life to these people, and after he dies, he's afraid they're just going to blow it all. I can hear Moses pleading with the people, please choose life. So what does Moses mean by life? Earlier in the book of Deuteronomy, we find that Moses has provided them with commandments that spell out a few of the things that will enhance your life, give you the rich and abundant life. I have a prize for anyone other than a pastor who can tell me where the 10 Commandments are in Deuteronomy. Name the chapter, you get the chocolate bar. I get to enjoy it myself. Chapter 5. I'd like everybody to pull out your hymnal and turn to page 36. The 10 Commandments are found both in Exodus 20 and Deuteronomy 5. This is a slightly condensed version of them, and I'd like for us to read them together. Top of page 36. Not hymn 36, page 36. That's before hymn number 1. All right, top of the page 36, let's read together. God spoke all these words, saying, I am the Lord your God. You shall have no other gods before me. You shall not make for yourself an idol, whether in the form of anything that is in heaven above, or that is on the earth beneath, or that is in the water under the earth. You shall not bow down to them or worship them. You shall not make wrongful use of the name of the Lord your God. Remember the Sabbath day and keep it holy. Honor your father and your mother. You shall not murder. You shall not commit adultery. You shall not steal. You shall not bear false witness against your neighbor. You shall not covet your neighbor's house. You shall not covet your neighbor's wife or anything that belongs to your neighbor. All right, thank you. These are the things that bring life rather than death. And Moses adds many more to the Big Ten. In the 15th chapter, Moses says to cancel the debts of the poor. He also says, open your hand to the needy among you. In chapter 24, he says, pay your employees fairly. He says, leave a part of your harvest in the field for the stranger and the orphan and the widow. What does Moses mean when he calls on the people to choose life instead of death? The dean of the Graduate School of Journalism at Columbia compared two autobiographies written by well-known journalists. One was Al Neuharth, editor and publisher and owner of USA Today. The other was by John Johnson, the founder and owner of Ebony magazine. The two had a great deal in common. Both grew up in poverty. Both lost their fathers at a young age. Both were raised by strong, competent women. Both established media empires, and both became extraordinarily wealthy. But that's pretty much where the similarities ended. Among their differences were their philosophies of life. Neuharth of USA Today said, life is a game. To enjoy life to the utmost, you must play every game to win. Your one-lost record is the most important thing to measure how you've lived your life. Johnson had a different philosophy of life. He said, we must return to the understanding that being an adult requires a total commitment to the community and every child in it. Which man chose the path that leads to life? Returning to our text, Moses knows that his days are numbered. He could have made his parting words a recitation of all of his accomplishments, which were numerous. He could have played a part in writing his own obituary, highlighting his great leadership that won his people freedom from slavery, helped them to escape from harrowing incidents throughout the wilderness. However, he chose instead to provide people with the wisdom they would need going forward. The wisdom they would need that would draw out the best in them. The German philosopher Gotthold Lessing wrote a story called Nathan the Wise. A colleague shares a condensed version of it. There was once an extraordinary old man, wise beyond most, named Nathan. Nathan's long life had brought him prosperity, contentment, and the respect of all who knew him. Nathan possessed a ring that had been given to him by his father. And his father had received it from his father and from his father, and it had been passed down for many generations. Along with the ring went a family story that said this was no ordinary ring. Whoever wore this ring would possess great wisdom. Well, Nathan had 3 sons. He loved each of them equally. This was his joy, and this was his dilemma. He could not decide which son should get the ring when it was time. So when Nathan was on his deathbed, he called his jeweler to him. He gave the jeweler the ring and said that he wanted the jeweler to fabricate it with 2 duplicate rings. Make sure it has each of them has all the same scratches and all the same wear marks so that you can't tell the 3 rings apart. When the jeweler returned, he gave Nathan the 3 rings, the original and the 2 duplicates. And Nathan put them in his hand and he shook them up. And he no longer knew which was the original ring. He then called his sons to come in one by one and told each son that he wanted him to have this special ring. He told them the story of how it had been passed on for generations and that the one who wore this ring would have exceptional wisdom. He gave a ring to each son, and one by one he charged them not to tell anyone else about the rings, especially don't tell your brothers. But brothers being brothers, they soon learned that each of them had been given a ring, and each of them had been given the same story. So the 3 sons went together to their father's bed, and they pleaded with him, "Please tell us, which of us has the real ring?" He said he no longer knew who had the true ring, but he assured them that time would tell. Time will tell which path in life we choose. In the next 20 seconds, I want you to make a vow to God and to yourself to live a life that will lead to a worthy obituary. May it be so.